Welcome, friends, to tonight's review. As the days pass, the beers grow shorter in supply in my refrigerator. So today, we will be reviewing from basically my favorite brewery, Anchor Brewing, Old Foghorn Barleywine Style Ale. Now, I believe this was the first domestically produced barley wine since the Prohibition, either in the late 70s or early 80s. And it's English style as opposed to the more heavily hopped American style. And according to the reviews I've read, I've let this warm for almost half an hour outside the fridge, because I wanted it to say that cold is not very good for this. Whew. Smell them esters. Okay, careful. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I can smell it from here. So, a thick finger's worth of beige head and a beautiful barley wine brownish amber color. So, brownish amber. And it is just estery. That nose is, the bouquet is thick. Like fresh baked banana bread, caramel, notes of wine, well, that vinous note. Hints of what smells of like juicy fruit gum. Touches of black licorice. Overall, very sweet. Very malty, very malt forward in the nose. Not really getting much in the way of hops, but not surprising. Oh, it's going to be a shame to go and... it's a work of art, I tell you, a work of art. Fruity, licoricey. Fresh baked fruit cake. Hints of nuts. Like pecans, maybe almonds. Now to taste. Ooh. Oh, that just coats the palate. Now what really gets me right now is the finish. This is an incredibly port-like finish, I find. Of course, it's not as thick as port, being that it's only about 8.8 ABV, as opposed to port's about 18% ABV. I mean, port wine, of course. But there is that intense, raisiny, dried, fruity, sweet, candied fruit well, maybe not as sweet as treacle. It doesn't go and move all the way to like Malmsey territory. It's kind of closer to, I'd say, well, not even Boal. I would say this is almost like a Verdelho Madeira, or, you know, a nice tawny port in that finish. But let me try and get some of the front end too. Hard to suss out. The hops, you don't taste hop flavor, but there is hop bitterness apparent towards the end of the mid palate, and that gives way into that port finish. Kind of sweetbread notes in the front. Sweetbread, like in you know, actual Portuguese sweetbread, or perhaps like raisin bread. Or actually, let me go and see this. French toast. French toast with just a hint of maple syrup in the front. So breadiness, but sweetness on top of that bread. Or maybe banana bread. I don't know, but a sweet bread. Not super sweet. Like I said, the hops go and balance it off a little bit, keeps it from coming a little bit too much like a fruit cake. Interestingly enough, the hops are, I'm starting to get a little bit of hops now. Hops are definitely American in style because it's just a slight resiny taste to them. And it really blends nicely with that finish. I love the finish on this. At turns, it kind of alternates in between that sort of lingering bitterness and that portiness. It's the licorice in the mid palate. Still trying to get the front. Front's kind of hard to go and suss out. The interplay of the sweetness and the bitterness of the hops is quite good. There is a slight booziness to it, but considering the intensity of the flavors within, it doesn't detract from it. Yeah, definitely candied sweetness on the immediate front that sort of turns into that breadiness when the malts sort of like kick in. What's really interesting is because of the very, very strong bouquet on the nose of this, that when you inhale as you're sipping it, you know, there's very interesting interplay in between the nose and the tongue. Chewy. I like this. I like this a lot. I could really go on and on about this, but because there's quite a bit in here that I have not sussed out. And actually, you know, I kind of want to see what it's like a bit colder. I went and warmed it up because, you know, beer reviews said that it tastes better when it's fully warmed up. But colder, I'd like to go and see what it's like. I won't, because this is the only bottle I got. And like I said, I'm going to, after I go and buy the beer camp thing, I'm not going to be buying beer again, or liquor again, or cigars again until I find another job. So, Old Foghorn Barleywine style ale. classic, highly recommended for those of you who want something that's sweet, yet bitter, yet ultimately satisfying and complex. Well, folks, that's your beer review for tonight. Prost!